Hello friends, this is Jayendra Khatod and you are watching Chart the Best Fit on Azure. In this video series, we will pick up another Azure service to try to deep dive into its pricing and sizing aspects so that you can learn to create the most optimized consumption plan for your customers. Joining me today is our Azure Core expert CSA Srinivas Manian. Hi Manian, welcome to this episode. Which service are you picking up today? Is that Azure Backup?
Thanks, Jendra, for this introduction. Azure Backup is an important service for protecting infrastructure and application workloads. I would be walking you through the Azure Backup Service and solution creation on Azure today. So let's look at Azure Backup as a service. So Azure Backup provides an enterprise class backup solution to secure your backup and to manage your backups at scale for diverse workload. It's simple to manage, which provides you an experience-less overhead with zero infra backup solution. And the backup storage for various workloads provides an option to achieve a cost-efficient uh, TCO for your backup requirements. To give a brief overview on the Azure Backup solution, so today the Azure Backup solution supports diverse workload, which includes on-prem servers, Azure VM infrastructure, databases such as SQL Server, enterprise databases like HANA, PostgreSQL, and also Azure Files and Disks. So Azure Backup Storage has built-in replication for which includes different models of staging your data. It also provides access tiers for snapshot and standard and archive tier. Azure Backup Service provides you a built-in security which includes RBAC, which is role-based access controls, encryption using Azure encryption keys, or you can also bring in your customer managed keys. Added to the soft delete capability. So in case if you have accidental data deletion, you'd be able to recover from those as well. In terms of the management itself, so Azure Backup Center provides a single pane of management wherein you could create policies, backup policies as per the organization's requirements. You could also schedule and monitor and manage backups. You would also have access to reports to understand the history and then plan for your future requirements. From availability of backup data, as we shared, right, there are multiple redundancy that backup as a solution provides today. So talking about the three options we have is local redundant storage, zone redundant storage, and geo redundant storage. Local redundant storage is a low-cost option for protecting your data from any local hardware failures. So we are replicating three copies of the data within the data center uh, to provide you better availability. As of today, there are zero annual fail rate for all the data that is staged on Azure storage. Zone redundant storage, basically it's for building redundancy and replicating data across the three zones. So three zones are basically three data centers within the region. They are connected via the Azure backbone network. So this has increased resiliencies for the data in event of a data center failure as well. Geo-redundant storage provides six copies of data across two Azure paired regions. So every geography we have a paired region concept where we have two uh, regions designated for building resiliency. So for example, if you look at the geo for India, we have Central and South India, which is Pune and Chennai as the designated paired regions, which has those resiliencies, so resilient services built between these two regions. So by enabling geo-redundant storage, you are able to maintain six copies of data, three in the primary and three in the secondary regions. So it's recommended to adopt redundant storage for your mission critical applications from a BCDR perspective as well. So in case of GRS, there is another additional option of read access GRS. So that is only available for if you are enabling that for a specific purpose when you also want to read data from the secondary region. So in terms of availability of data, you would be able to restore backup data within the primary as well as your secondary at any time. And in case of it's the same for partial or full outages as well. So once you've enabled backup, so backup this the databases on the redundancies, you would able to recover all the data based on the selected targets for your application workloads. If you're particularly if you're looking at the GRS, if you want to have a BCP plan based on Azure Backup as a solution, wherein you would be able to restore the data from backup and resume your services, the RPO that we provide from Azure side is 12 hours, where you can go back to point in time that which wherein you would be able to restore the data and resume your services. Your RTO, which is going to be triggered in your secondary region, it is going to be based on the number of workloads that you're going to define within the landscape. So RTO is dependent on the complexity of the landscape and the time it takes to restore those services. So Azure Backup provides a low and predictable cost for each of your workloads. As you can see here, for on-prem servers, your Azure VM, the protected cost per protected instance is shared as in the slide, like $10 per VM. Similarly for Azure VM as well. For databases, the cost for protected instances is slightly higher. And again, for your critical enterprise databases such as HANA, it's close to $80. And for Postgres, SQL is something that we are currently in preview, and we would be sharing those details as well. Similarly, for the disk backups for Azure files, it's a flat price of $5. And then we have blob and disk storage where there is no cost for the protected instance. The only cost that would need to incur for these for disks would be the storage size. So the backup storage, as I said, the Vault with standard tier offers the four redundancies as we explained before. Similarly, for the archive tier, we have the two redundancies, which is LRS and GRS. So with lower and predictable cost, the recovery service Vault provides standard and archive tiers. So snapshot-based backups could be considered for those applications wherein you have the shortest recovery time objectives. You could take disk-based snapshots or VM-based snapshots, and there is going to be a corresponding TCO based on the type of backup solution that you want to implement. It could be an incremental or it could be your full backup. Similarly, there are from a recovery service vault, there are two options which are standard and archive tier. Standard provides an RPO of 1 day, and RTO would be for a few minutes to an hour. The price is based on the GB cost, the size of the storage that is required to back up the data. And archive tiers are typically for the data which you are having a longer retention period. So there are instances where customers are looking to retain data beyond a period of time, say more than 6 months. From a compliance perspective, they would need to have a yearly copy of data staged in the storage. So to provide you a better cost optimization, you could create a data lifecycle for those data which is exceeding beyond a certain number of weeks or months, and you can move them to the archive tier. So archive tier, the retrieval costs are going to be higher as compared to the standard tier and for the snapshot. So what we typically call that as data rehydration. So when you plan to retrieve the data from the archive tier, there is the point to be noted is it's going to take more time as compared to your standard. And similarly, you would be charged based per GB for the rehydration. In terms of type of data backup that is supported, Snapshot supports incremental backup. Your Vault standard supports full incremental, differential, and log backup. Typically, this is considered for your VM application VM backups and as well as for data backups. Archive tier, the type of backup is full backup, and you would be able to retrieve as per the previous comments. Yeah. So let us look at how we can solution the Azure Backup Service using the pricing calculator. So this is a pricing calculator link where you could look for all the Azure relevant services that you would like to solution for. So let's select Azure Backup. You can select the service. So here are the different inputs that you will need to provide to solution for Azure Backup. So first, you will have to select the region where you would like to stage your recovery services vault, from where you're going to have all your workload services deployed and you would like looking to protect those. I'm selecting Central India as a region. And here are different types of the workloads. You have Azure VM, on-prem servers, Azure Files, SAP HANA on Azure VMs, SQL Server, and Azure Postgres servers as well. So Azure Service Backup Service provide data protection to the following entities. Let's select Azure VMs. And here you will have to select the number of protected instances. So we can select, say, 3 instances where I am running my application server workloads. And average data for the 3 VMs, I would provide an input of 250 GB, just as a reference. You could see the corresponding value here for the 3 VMs and the size of the data for those 3 VMs. So backup policies, we have the following inputs to be provided: daily retention, weekly retention, monthly retention, yearly retention, and also the retention for the snapshot backups. So as a policy, I have opted for 15 days of daily retention, 4 weeks for my weekly retention, and 2 months for my monthly. And I would also opt for a yearly backup. So this would have an impact on the average monthly backup data. In terms of the average daily data churn, there are 3 options here, which is low, moderate, and high. So low and moderate can be chosen for application workloads, application server workloads, wherein you do not find a high number of growth as compared to the databases. So databases, your daily data churn is going to be high as you have transactional data and also other business data. So let's select moderate for now. And from a redundancy, we will select LRS. You can see the corresponding cost TCO for the options that we have provided. So if we are looking to further increase resiliency with geo-redundant storage, you can select geo-redundant storage and you have an equivalent cost that has been updated here. Similarly, for RAGRS, which is read access GRS, you have a delta cost appearing here. So basis on your requirement, you can select the redundancy options for your backup. And this is the monthly cost for the VMs that we have included in scope and the size of the VM and the retention policies that we have provided. We also have a detailed backup estimates. So you could look at this particular URL where we have a template which will help you to forecast your backup estimates. Let's walk through that briefly. This is the Azure Backup detailed estimates that I was talking about. So Azure Backup template provides you an option where you could key in your inputs, your backup policies for your varied workloads that you would like to protect using backup service. And through this, you would be able to forecast your storage and your average monthly and yearly consumption. So let's look at few of these. So I'm going into the Azure VMs and on-prem backup tab. As you can see here, you can provide the various options inputs for the workload characteristics. As you can see here, I am providing the input for the size of the VMs here. And I'm also providing the details for the number of VMs that I have in scope. So there is an option where you could also exclude disks, which may not be required in case if you were to exclude. And in this case, I am including all the disks. And in terms of the daily churn, I'm leaving it at moderate. So backup storage redundancy, I'm keeping it as LRS. The retention policies for the various options: daily backup, I'm retaining it for 7 days, weekly backup for 1 week, monthly backup for 1 month, and yearly backup for 1 year. So you can see when you have provided these inputs, you have an estimate in the nutshell. So you have a monthly average data for the first year, average monthly backup data close to 1 TB, and your average monthly snapshot data for the VMs is going to be 22 GB. And you can see your month-wise estimate for a period of 12 months. Likewise, you have a year-wise estimate for a period of 5 years. So this gives you a forecast of how your backup cost is going to pan out for the period of time. Similarly, let's consider SQL DB backup in the similar lines. So here the total size of the backup for the SQL DB I would input as 500, and I have two SQL databases. If you have enabled compression, you can provide the compression factor. So most Azure backup customers see up to 80% compression. Let's key in 80% here. The daily log size is going to be a percentage of total size of all your SQL DBs. So I'm just giving an input as 5% here. The daily churn, we're keeping it as high given that it is a database environment. It's expected that your database growth is going to be um, higher than your application workloads. Then you have redundancy. We have selected LRS. We'll keep those defaults. And backup policy, I've selected daily differential, weekly full backup, and monthly, yearly full backups. Retention, I'm retaining the default values here as well. And you can look from this input what is the estimated backup cost and the storage requirements. So the average monthly data backup data is close to 2.4 TB, and you can have the forecasted view here for the 12 months and as well as for the 5 years. So this is a very key template that you could use for forecasting your data backup requirements on Azure, and quite useful utility. Thank you. So with that, we come to the end of the Azure Backup Service and how do we solution the backup service for various workloads. And I hope you found it useful. Looking forward to continue with more topics in the series. Thank you.
Hey Manian, thank you so much. That was very detailed and insightful, and I'm sure this will help our viewers when it comes to creating an optimized consumption plan for Azure Backup Service. And yes, I am definitely looking forward to host you again on this series. Thank you so much. And that's about it for this episode, folks. Signing off, this is Jayendra Khatod. Until next time, do keep learning.